Hey there everybody, welcome to... You know what? I don't feel like I need to do an introduction for this car. As you can see, I have got the 5N. It looks amazing, and as we've seen from the reviews over the last year or so, it has been very highly praised. In fact, I have got a copy here of Autocar magazine, where on the front, they simply have 5 words for it for the full road test. The best EV ever made. So, let's find out if it is. Now, it was just 6 years ago that Hyundai introduced the world to its first N car, the i30N. And talk about a car that really did scare the establishment, especially the likes of the Volkswagen Golf GTI. Because here we had a hot hatch that gave drivers a pure driving experience and old school thrills. Granted, yes, an old school fuel economy as well, but owners did not care about that. They just had a car that handled absolutely brilliantly. Now, this was no fluke, because over the years, Hyundai Group have been getting the right people on board at the right time to really start honing their cars, whether that be design or how they drive. And speaking about how they drive, the man responsible, his name is Albert Biermann, and he actually has a bit of a reputation because he used to work at BMW's M division, so he knows a little bit about how a car should handle. So, with all those factors coming together, we now have this, the Ioniq 5N, the Korean brand's first electric N car. And I am so keen to properly review this car because I've only had a couple of brief experiences with it, being a passenger in New York and a brief drive at Millbrook, but now I actually get to properly test it and drive it on UK roads. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how all those factors from all those special people at Hyundai Group and Hyundai themselves have all come together for this electric, well, super hot hatch. Now, when it comes to the 5N styling, you can clearly see it's been given the full N works, and Hyundai were not going to be subtle with this one. I do feel it has been dialed up to 11. Now, the family-friendly 5 is not a small family hatchback. I refuse to call it an SUV. It is a mega hatch. But the 5N is actually a little bit larger. Now, granted, it sits 20 millimeters lower, but it is 50 millimeters wider and 80 millimeters longer to incorporate the larger alloy wheels and tires, as well as that bonkers rear diffuser, which is definitely not for show. It has got real aerodynamic aid there. But we've got this brilliant aggressive front end. We have got active aero as well, and vents that do channel air down the side of the car. We've even got active aero just by the rear wheel arch as well to channel that air through. So it's not just for show. And what I do love is with this performance blue matte paint, the contrast with the satin and the kind of shiny piano black on the front, it really does give the 5N a hugely dynamic look. And I especially like as well the orange piping at the front going around to the rear. It's not red, it is actually orange. And then we've got the back of the 5N where we've got that massive rear spoiler, again with little slits to diffuse and send air through nice and clean. And yes, again, that massive rear diffuser. Also, we got these brilliant 21-inch forged alloy wheels, which really set the car off. So yeah, let me know what you think of the 5N styling. Do you like the performance blue, or would you go for another colour? But on that note, I think it's time we leave the exterior of the 5N, even though I could stare at this thing for hours, and see what they've done to the interior. Sat in the front of the 5N, you are greeted by a very comfortable, really well kitted out and nicely designed interior. And already I'm seeing changes in here when compared to the family-friendly 5, and I'm not talking just about the sportiness of the 5N. These actually could be very functional for the family-friendly version. Now, when it comes to getting in and out of the 5N, because it is a mega hatchback, you have got a slightly raised seated position. Granted, you do sit 20mm lower compared to the family-friendly 5, which is what you want in this type of car, which does mean that getting in and out of the car is actually very easy, but you have to be aware that you've got these sporty bucket seats to sit into. So if you have got any kind of mobility issues and you are after something like the 5N, that's just something to be aware of. You've also got no grab handle here on the driver's side, but you have on the front passenger side. Also, I will mention that these seats are manual adjustment only. Probably a good way to kind of save a little bit of weight on there. But the seats themselves are absolutely wonderful. I'm not sure if these are the same seats you get in the Kia EV6 GT, but they hold me in all the right places, and I am a proper big bear. So it does hold me on the sides, and actually the proper thigh support is really good, and it doesn't push my legs in so I feel that my testicles are going to pop, which is a real bonus there. But there is a good level of adjustment. There's no adjustable lumbar support, but then as well with the steering, we have got both rake and reach adjustment. So get in. The ideal driving position is easy, which is what you want in this type of car. And then when it comes to interior quality, it is actually still pretty good in here. We have got soft touch plastics here with contrasting stitching on top of the dash, soft on the doors as well. There's also soft on the door panels and on the armrest. And so I actually have to go quite far low down in order to come across some harder, scratchier plastic, which is actually a real nice thing to come across. We have still got the checkered pixels here because this is a full EV. And then yes, lower down we have got some harder, scratchy plastics, but I do like the fact on this redesigned center console, we've got some soft padding here, which is great to rest your leg against, perhaps if you're going on a track day or something, or maybe just a long journey on the M1, you can rest your leg against it. So that is a real plus and shows that Hyundai have done their research. So yeah, when you get into the seats of the Ioniq 5N, you do find that it is very comfortable. It does feel very sporty. This steering wheel as well is a massive indicator of the sporty potential that this car has. But what I like about the rest of it is that it is very functional, if not the most flamboyant in design. But you know what? If you're driving a car like this on the track, the one thing you don't want is distractions and colours all around the cabin. So again, I do appreciate that from Hyundai. Cubby spaces in the 5N are actually still pretty good, even with this redesigned center console. Now firstly, the door pockets are of a decent size and shape. They're not lined with any fabric or rubber, so loose items will rattle around a bit, but you can get a medium-sized bottle of drink in there. So what we have now on this redesigned center console up front is a high tray area, which is rubber lined with your wireless charging pad, and a little patch on the side where perhaps you could lie your key there. We have got two USB-C charging inputs, and that's your main one if you want to connect up to things like Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which is wireless. Then just below there we have got another USB-C charging input and a 12-volt socket, and then below there we have got this large area for storage, which is very handy. It is rubber lined as well, and we have got these new cup holders which do fold out with a couple of plastic grippers to keep your drink in place, so I do like them. And then we have got a armrest which I can lift up to unveil a little bit of extra space as well, which is very handy. And also that does slide forward a little bit as well, but I have seen shorter reviewers in the 5N notice that if your seat is a bit more forward, yeah, that's not the most handy, and they do wish it would go forward a bit more. But for myself, I have found it's actually in a good position there. And then finally we have got the glove box, which is no longer a glove tray, but it is, again, of a massive size. You can see the book pack and everything is of a decent size as well. However, I can't quite reach it from this position. But it is just very handy. But I'm not sure of the reason why they've gone away from that tray, because I did like that and it was very cool. But I can get my notepad in there, which is very handy, and just, yeah, keep it hidden away. So yeah, when it comes to these storage spaces here in the 5N, with this new redesigned center console, it is still a very practical place and actually very quirky as well in the way it's been designed. So I do like that. Now, when it comes to physical buttons here in the 5N's cabin, they are still here, which I do like, with a mixture of touch-sensitive buttons. So we have got your shortcut buttons here underneath the infotainment system with a couple of rotary knobs, and then we got your little touchscreen here for your dual zone climate control, which is very easy to operate when on the move. If you want to go into more detail, however, you can press a climate button and it comes up on the infotainment screen. As I mentioned, we have got your two USB-C charging inputs with a little button in the center to change it from purely charging to connecting things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We have got your big start-stop button there as well, which is very handy. A couple of buttons here to do your 360 cameras and your parking sensors all round. And then down here lower, we have got, like I said, the 12-volt socket and a couple of buttons to do the cup holders. Now we come on to the steering wheel, which is a beautiful design, and it has got a plethora of buttons on it. If you have got something like an i30N or an i20N, you usually just get one button that says N on it, but with this, no, you get two. So firstly, on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, we have got your radar-guided cruise controls, along with your driver menu data controls. Above it, we have got a drive mode select, so you can go sport, eco, or normal. And then we have got one of your two custom N buttons. On the right hand side, we have got a big red button that says NGB on it, which is your N grin button. I have decided to name it something else. I'll tell you about that later on. We have got your radio or media communication and voice controls with a dedicated button as well that you can assign via the infotainment screen, and your second N custom control. Flappy paddles on the back of the steering wheel, because this is fully electric. They do your brake regeneration and also your gears. We'll get onto that later. We also got your phallic shaped gear selector, which hasn't gone to the new, more kind of angular version that we've seen in the likes of the Hyundai Kona. And yeah, we've got a couple of buttons on the right hand side for your electric handbrake auto hold. We've got things like then your boot release, opening the charging flap, and your traction control. I will mention that the charging flap is still on the driver's side at the rear of the vehicle, and we'll talk about charging speeds later on. So yeah, when it comes to the physical buttons here in the 5N, there's still plenty of them here, which I really am happy to see. And then you just got those touch sensitive buttons with the dual zone climate control, which, like I said, are very easy to use when on the move. And then finally, we've got the infotainment system and the digital dashboard display, both of them 12.3-inch systems, and they are the latest generation of software. So they look and presented very much like what you get on the likes of the new Hyundai Kona and Santa Fe. So when it comes to the digital dashboard display, first, when you've got it in normal mode, everything's really nicely and clearly presented, and going through the little wheel and button on the left hand side of the steering wheel, you can go through the various driver menus on there, which is really handy to get all your driver data and information. Then if you go into the N custom modes, you will find that this does change. It comes very sporty in the way it's presented, as well as on the head-up display, and you get things like a power and charge bar for your regen braking when you're driving. But you can also get a rev counter as well, and we'll come on to that a little bit later on. So yeah, there is actually more going on in the 5N than you would get on the regular family-friendly 5. And then we've got the infotainment system. So the first thing, it's a tiny little niggle, is that the whole system is flush. So I'd like to see this turned towards the driver to give it a more driver-centric feel, because I do feel I have to reach forward a little bit in order to get to the edge of the display. But as I mentioned, you have got things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So with Apple CarPlay, with it being wireless as well, I do like the fact that the menus and shortcut buttons are on the right-hand side. So when it comes to the standard menus, it's just like what we get in other Hyundai cars. So the menus, the actual size of them is really good. When you go through them, you do find, again, the actual sub-menus are of a decent size. They are quite fiddly when you get further into them, and I don't like the fact they're on the left-hand side here, so I have to reach forward. But there is a huge amount you can go through. But it's not necessarily the standard menus is where things go crazy, but in a good way. When you go to N mode, you are presented with a little graphic there, a huge amount of options and variations in what you can do with the car. I mean, you can change things like the suspension, the ESC, you can do the LSD, the steering, the HUD. There's so many things. You can even change the sound of the car as well. It's not just piping in car noises, it goes futuristic as well. Launch control, you can have this recording a track. There's so much to do. And I'm pretty sure, doing a few basic maths on this, there are up to 3,000 variations and combinations you can adjust this car to, which is just bonkers. You have this car on a 3-year lease. I don't think you'll have enough time to basically go through every variation and setting that's available to you. And that's no bad thing, because as we'll find out later on, this is something special. And on that note, I think it's time we leave the front of the 5N and see what it's like for rear passengers. Sat in the back of the 5N, this is when you realise the true benefits to a pure electric vehicle. Even with all the performance that's on offer in this car, there's no real compromises back here. So when it comes to getting in and out of the back of the 5N, it's really easy because the doors are nice and big and they do open pretty wide. You've also got a grab handle here in the rear, which is very handy. And then once you're sat in the back, you find that it is very spacious and very comfortable. Also, you do sit above the driver and front passenger, which means you don't feel claustrophobic, even with the dark headlining. Now that driver's seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide, and I got a huge amount of knee room. Granted, I can't quite get my feet underneath the driver's seat. I have got it down in its lowest position, but headroom is actually pretty good as well. So a couple of 6-footers could sit in the back of the 5N for a medium or possibly long length journey and still feel very relaxed and comfortable at the end of it. I think you could get 3 adults at a push in the back of the 5N, easily 3 children, because there is no transmission tunnel to navigate over. It's a completely flat floor. Now, speaking of kids, we have got ISOFIX supports on the outer seats. There are no plastic covers or anything. You just got to navigate between the gap in the seats, so it should be pretty easy to affix a child's seat. Now, when it comes to cubby spaces, I'm going to say it's okay. This is where we have to make a little bit of a compromise because of these sporty seats. So firstly, the door pockets are of an okay size and shape. You can get a small to possibly medium-sized bottle of drink in there. We've got no aeroplane style pockets on the backs of the front seats, but we have got a centre armrest with a couple of extra cup holders. So that is very handy. Then when it comes to features, the first one I will mention is that we can slide the seat and bench forward, which means you get more space in the boot. Not only that, you can also recline the seats so you can relax on a long journey. And then with these outer seats, they are heated as well with 2 stages. We have got 2 USB-C charging inputs, which are very handy as well. Underneath here, in the center of the seats, we have got vehicle to load for your 3-pin socket. A couple of vents here on the B pillar, and also some little blinds as well to keep the sun off the kids when you're driving about. So that is really handy. I do love the fact as well we have got an N badge here on the back of the seats, and also on the front of the seats they do illuminate, so that is very posh indeed. And then the windows themselves, they are tinted. They're of a massive size, but they don't open all the way down, which is a little bit disappointing. But you know what? I will forgive it because there's plenty of space. There are plenty of features back here. And it does mean that you can go on a long journey in the 5N and you can be comfortable. It is a genuine surprise. And on that note, I think it's time we leave the rear seats and see what it's like in the boot. Now, before I open the boot of the 5N, I just want to show you that Hyundai do listen to their customers, because we now have a rear wiper added to the car, and that was something the car really needed when it was first launched. So thank you very much, Hyundai. Now, when you get the boot open on the 5N, you are greeted with 480 litres of space, which is a little bit down from the family-friendly version of the Ioniq 5, but that's because of the larger rear and front motors to deal with that extra performance and power. But when you got the boot open, you are greeted by a nice wide square load area. You could easily get a large suitcase plus a few weekend bags in there, which is very handy. Also, you've got virtually no load lip to navigate over, but I would say if you are loading any large bulky items into the back of the 5N, just be careful of that rear diffuser because it does stick out. Now, it's not devoid of features either. We have got some sturdy tethering hooks, a 12-volt socket. We got 2 positions for the tonneau cover, so you can recline the rear seats even further back. We have still got underfloor storage, so you can get both of your cables under there along with your vehicle to load and your tyre puncture repair kit. However, because of that larger rear motor, it does mean you cannot put the tonneau cover underneath the boot floor if you want to carry any large bulky items. So that is a little bit disappointing, but you know what? It's a minor compromise. And then if you do decide to put the rear seats down, there is a little bit of an incline there, but it's still a very decent boot capacity and a very versatile car. It is a perfect performance family mega hatchback. I was going to say SUV, but I didn't fall into the trap. And you still get the convenience features as well, like you can walk up to the boot with your arms full, key in your pocket, and the boot will open after 5 seconds. I do love that feature instead of just kicking your foot underneath the bumper where you could possibly lose your balance and also look a little bit daft if you don't get it right first time. So yeah, even though you do lose out a little bit over the family-friendly 5 when it comes to the boot, it's still very usable. However, the other compromise you do have to make is that you do lose the frunk because, again, of that larger front motor to deal with that extra power. But again, because you got that plenty of space underneath the boot floor to put your cables in, I'm not too bothered. And on that note, I think it's time we get the boot down and we see what the Ioniq 5N is like out there on the open road. So once you get driving in the 5N, first impressions are very positive. In fact, I feel like I'm driving the family-friendly version of the Ioniq 5, just with bucket seats, firmer suspension, and heavier and sharper steering. But it still feels a really lovely place to be. Now, when it comes to visibility, it's still very good all round because I have got that slightly raised driving position that I would get from this mega hatchback. It means I've got a very clear view of the road ahead. The A-pillars are a bit thick and chunky, but surprisingly, I've not found myself looking around them at any junctions. The wing mirrors are of a lovely shape and size, and I have got blind spot monitoring, as well as the blind spot and lane change cameras. Thank you very much, Hyundai Group. And then when I look over my shoulder, I do find that the C-pillar is still quite thick, but I have got that blind spot monitoring as standard. And rear visibility is still really good. I love the fact we have got a large rear window and that we've got that wiper now added to the car, especially on a couple of the days I've been driving the 5N, because it does kick up all the rain and dirt from the ground onto that rear screen, just down to the aerodynamics of the car. So yeah, all-round visibility is very good, but I have heard that some of those who are surprisingly shorter than myself might find that the wing mirrors are quite large and obstructive of your view if you're at a junction. But for somebody like myself or somebody taller, yeah, you'll have no issues whatsoever. So yes, once you start driving the 5N, first impressions, yeah, feel very positive. It feels like a normal Ioniq 5, but we all know what is underneath and the sporting and performance potential this car has. Now, when it comes to powering the 5N, we have an 84 kilowatt hour battery and 2 electric motors. So we've got all-wheel drive, but the larger motor is at the back of the car, so that's where most of the power is. Yep, clearly Hyundai have done their homework on this one. But it's great to know you've got that confidence to have all-wheel drive and that all-wheel grip. Now, the headline figure for the 5N is 641 brake horsepower, but you don't get that all the time. You get that, for example, when you hit the NGB button, which is the N grin button, or as I like to call it, when you press it, no going back. And for 10 seconds you get the full 641 brake horsepower, which means this car will do 0 to 62 in 3.4 seconds. So this is the second quickest car I've ever reviewed, behind the Porsche Taycan Turbo. But that was a Porsche. This is a Hyundai. I mean, you're never expecting those kind of performance figures from a Hyundai Group car. But then again, we had it as well with the Kia EV6 GT, so we know what it's capable of. And yeah, when you're driving around just day to day, you have a paltry 601 brake horsepower to deal with. Boo-hoo. But it is more than enough, of course, but the way it's delivered is actually very surprising. It's not scary in any way, shape or form, and if anything, you're going to spend most of your time driving about in either normal or probably eco. And when you got it in eco, yes, you do feel there's that kind of power that's been pulled back, so you haven't got, say, 601. It kind of feels like, I don't know, you got 400. But even in eco, you can overtake with ease, you can accelerate and get up to speed with no issues whatsoever. Now, of course, with that extra power and performance, there is a hit when it comes to range, and it is a claimed 278 miles from Hyundai. Now, on a full charge, I was given a predicted 240 miles of range, which I'm actually very impressed with. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, because you got that large battery, surely you should be able to get a decent over 300 miles range. But no, because you've got those larger motors, you've got the bigger 21-inch alloy wheels, it is going to affect the range somewhat. You don't buy a Porsche 911 because you can do 700 miles to the tank and 60 mpg. Well, not yet anyway, even though it has now gone hybrid. So when you buy this car, yes, there is actually a very usable, very livable amount of range available to you. And that performance, like I said, from a Hyundai Group car is just staggering. 0 to 62 in 3.4 seconds. That is just amazing. And the way it puts its power down as well. Yeah, massively impressed. Now, when it comes to charging capabilities, of course, this being a Hyundai Group car, it is incredibly impressive, and I think pretty much class leading. So you have got the ability to charge at 235 kilowatts, which means you can go from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes, which is phenomenal for this type of car. But not just that, it's phenomenal for the family-friendly version of the Ioniq 5, and it means that realistically you can do proper long-range journeys in the car and not have to stop and wait for too long when you're charging. Just a quick wee and a cup of tea and away you go. Then when it comes to brake regeneration, it is actually, again, one of the best in class. I do love the fact we've got the flappy paddles. You've got several levels of regeneration. You got 0, where basically the car will just coast, and then you go up to level 3, which is the strongest, or you can go to full I pedal, which is proper one pedal driving. And that's something I really do appreciate that Hyundai Group do, which basically means you very rarely have to use the brake pedal. So I do appreciate that. You have got an automatic function as well, where basically the car will decide how much brake regen it puts in, and that definitely works when you're on the motorway and perhaps using the radar guided cruise control. So yeah, when it comes to brake regeneration and the charging capabilities of the 5N, yeah, it's still absolutely brilliant and bloody phenomenal. Just what you need in this type of car, because if you want to take this to the track and you use up that range, you want to know you can charge it up quickly and get back out on the track. So as I mentioned earlier, you have got a button on top of the steering wheel which says drive mode, and you've got 3 drive modes to choose from. You got sport, normal or eco, and they pretty much do everything they say on the tin. You will by default go into normal mode, and it's perfect for everyday driving. You've got that ability to very quickly overtake. That performance, 601 brake horsepower, is there and very accessible. You might want to put it in eco mode if you just want to kind of eke out those extra miles, which is absolutely fine. So what happens is when you put your foot down, there's that slight hesitation and it doesn't feel like you've got that full 600 brake horsepower. but it's still enough to actually be able to overtake and go about your daily drive without any issues whatsoever. And then of course, yes, there is Sport, which does sharpen up that throttle response and is just absolutely perfect when you put your foot down and want to get going. And one of the things I love in this car is it tells you and almost goads you to kind of put it into sport mode and just putting your foot down, because there's a sign there that says a double bend is coming up. So you're kind of like, oh, sport mode, away I go. So I also find as well the suspension has firmed up as well. It has all sharpened up and the steering feels a little bit heavier and more direct. But yeah, you've just got more access to that power and it is quicker and sharper and just perfect. I would say probably on the road when you've got it in sport. But like I said, for the most part, you're probably going to be in normal or eco. But yeah, that's what that little drive mode button does for you. And then finally, we've got the two buttons on the bottom of the steering wheel. We've got N1 and N2, or as it says in the button setup, we've got N left and N right. And these are basically configurable buttons. You can set these up how you want. And as I mentioned earlier, there is so many menus and selections you can go to set up this car how you want it. I think there are just shy of 3,000 variations you can set up this car. So it really is a case of set up before you set off. Now, I am actually going to use the way the car has been set up already. So with N2, which is the right hand button, what they've done is they set it so that it still feels like an EV, but I've got now a massive speedometer that's just turned up that goes up to 180 miles an hour. The heads up display has changed, so I've got a power gauge with a charge gauge, so it lets me know that it's still in full electric mode, but the performance is just going to be there for me. I can still do things like brake regen, and like I said, I can just put my foot down and the performance is there. It has literally gone up to 11. So this is where you can definitely scare your passenger by just having it set up like this, but they won't be aware that it's just ready and primed to go, and that is just awesome. I love the fact as well it gives you the motor temperatures as well as the battery temp. Now I really do appreciate that one, because that will come in handy if I want to charge the car later on. If I know the battery is at an optimal temperature, I know I'm going to get that fast charge coming through. So I do appreciate that readout. Now I can press it again and it goes to custom 2, and this time I've got an engine noise with it, but it's in like an automatic mode, so it sounds like I've only got one gear. However, let's go to N1, shall we? Okay, I've now got a rev counter instead of a power and charge gauge in front of me. The actual display on the, thank you, the display on the dash is now a rev counter as well, and it's also telling me drive, which is the gear I'm in, but also what gear I'm in. And this is where the 5N goes to a whole new level. So these flappy paddles no longer do brake regeneration. They in fact they change gear. It's absolutely brilliant. And I can drop down, which is great, but this is where it gets, this is where it plays with your head, and this shows how clever the guys are at Hyundai Group. Ready? And Hyundai even. I'm just going to floor it. It goes up to 8,000 RPM. It's redlining. I can't accelerate. I have to change gear. And can you hear that? It's popping behind me. This sounds like a 2-litre 4-cylinder from an i30N. And it makes those pops. It's amazing. I just... oh my God. Okay, I can't believe it. Let's put this into a gear where everything kind of calms down for me. It's just phenomenal. I never thought I'd be driving an electric car that feels like it has an engine, that acts like it has an engine. And not only that, I don't know if you saw, I'm actually jolting. It's not just going through the gears. When I change gear, it does it aggressively. I mean, oh my God. The guys at Hyundai and their N division, however much you're paying them, please double it. You have to. This is just something you don't expect. Oh my God. I know I'm in an electric car, but I do feel like I have got an engine under that bonnet. I feel like it's popping and banging behind me. Oh my God, the theatrics on this are absolutely amazing. But some people will go and say, what is the point of it? I mean, that's just stupid and daft. But no, if I'm on a track, I can't hear what speed I'm doing or what kind of position I'm in if I've got it in full electric. But if I've got an actual engine note and I can change gear, I can actually kind of tailor the car to how I want it. It's absolutely sublime. But here's the thing, as soon as you're done, but I'm back to being in an EV. I'm just calm. The suspension's calmed down as well. Yeah, it goes back to just being a regular Ioniq 5. Bloody brilliant. So, what about the 5N's ride? Well, I am in the little village, which hasn't got the smoothest of roads. I can hear and I can feel the bumps and imperfections coming through because I have got that sport suspension and those 21-inch alloy wheels. But you know what? I'm not uncomfortable. It's dealing with them really well. I'm not getting any booms or jolts in the cabin. These seats, even though they are very sporty and supportive, are actually taking a lot of the vibration away. I'm genuinely surprised by that. This is an amazing all-rounder, and not only that, my first journey in this car when it got delivered was a 230-mile drive on the motorway, and this thing didn't skip a beat. Again, yes, it felt firm and I felt some of the bumps and imperfections, but it was not uncomfortable. It settled down. It was just, yeah, really lovely. I was genuinely surprised at how well it just rode on the motorway. And now I'm getting myself up to 60 miles an hour. I'll put the cruise control on just to leave it be. And I find as well, it still is lovely and composed. Yes, you do get a little bit of a wobble because of that stiffness. It is much stiffer than the regular family-friendly Ioniq 5, but no, it's not uncomfortable. This feels just absolutely sublime. Whether it be at low speed on a bumpy road, you are expecting that compromise because of the larger tyres, wheels, and that stiffer suspension, but it's nowhere near as uncomfortable as I was expecting to be, especially living with it. And I have driven this on, like I said, motorways, A roads and B roads, and I am gobsmacked at how well it rides. It's still firm, it's still sporty, but it's not uncomfortable. I mean, my wobbly bits are not really wobbling. That is a real positive sign indeed. And then we move on to the refinement side, which again, I was expecting certain things. We got those sporty Pirelli tyres, and yes, you do get some tyre roar coming into the cabin, but it's absolutely fine. fine on the motorway. I got a wonderful Bose sound system, which just, yeah, is actually, it's a sublime sound system. I will mention that as well. But again, 60 mile an hour. I got a bit of tyre roar, tiniest bit of wind noise. I'm surprised actually I've not got a lot of wind noise here, but no, again, this is a brilliant motorway cruiser, great for long distance travel. Now, I just want to quickly talk about efficiency. I know it's a boring subject, but we have just talked about charging and brake regeneration, but don't expect great numbers when it comes to efficiency. You're probably going to get between 2.5 and 3.1, maybe 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour. And that's mainly down to the kind of aerodynamics of the car, especially when you're driving around town, as well as the performance that's on offer. Now, what about the 5N's handling? Well, firstly, the steering wheel. I love the shape, I love the design of it. It looks sporty and yeah, it looks very much fit for purpose for a sporty car. Love the thickness as well. It is quite chunky, but you know what? It's not too thick. And now driving around in normal mode, you do find there's a good amount of weight in the steering already, and it does feel very direct. Now, if I put it into sport mode, it does get heavier. There is also Sport Plus as well when you put it into N mode. So let's do that now. Oh my God, it's so direct. It does everything you want it to. It also is so flat and composed. This is set up so beautifully when you've got it in N mode, or one of the N modes, how you set it up. But in normal mode, yeah, there is still very little to no roll whatsoever. It feels sharp, precise, quick. Yeah, again, a massive highlight with the 5N is just how well it handles. But you know what? I'm not surprised, because even the regular Ioniq 5 handles really lovely, and that's a big, comfortable, mega hatchback and family-friendly one. But yeah, again, Albert Bierman and his team have worked their magic on this, and it is a highlight. Like I said, you can change the weight of the steering depending on how you set up the modes, but it's perfect for everyday driving. You got a good amount of weight. It's easy to park. Granted, yes, you do have to do a little bit of manhandling when you got it in kind of normal mode, but yeah, you got normal, sport, and Sport Plus. Let's get you back to there. So there you go. I mean, it's, yeah, in terms of just the all-round driving capabilities of this car, it's on another level. The handling is just sharp, precise, the feedback is there. Yes, probably against something with hydraulic steering, where you can physically have that connection to the wheels, you know, is kind of maybe say 4 or 5%, but the margins are so small now because the team who work on these do such an amazing job. Really, you can't fault them. And now I'm going to get that little sign. Where is it? There we go, double penned. Here we are. Turn in, nice and quick. I can feel what the wheels are doing. And again, oh, I'm just foot down. And that's in normal mode. I'm not even in N mode. Oh, God. Fabulous. Bloody fabulous. So I've talked about the handling and the ride. I've talked about the N buttons, the drive mode. I've talked about the engine noises that's piped into the car and the fake gears, which feel like real gears. Is there anything else that I've possibly missed? Yes, there is quite a lot, because with this car, I do feel like I've barely scratched the surface of it. This is an electric vehicle that Hyundai wants you to take to the track. It has got a track mode where you can have it as either sprint or endurance. With sprint, basically you're looking to do the fastest lap time, so it gives you all the power that's available to you. You then have endurance, where it actually takes away the top speed of a car. It's 161 miles per hour, by the way, and also takes away some of the things like the air conditioning, or reduces their power, so you can get the most range out of the car and complete as many laps as possible. There is a drag race mode, there is a drift mode as well. Of course, do those in a controlled environment off the public highway. But not only that, but in terms of the electric side of the car, it has already been tested and prepped for it. So you can precondition the battery ready for the track, which is a brilliant thing to do in regards to the longevity of the vehicle. If you've got something like an Audi RS6, you're not just going to switch it on and go nuts on the track. You need the engine and all the fluids to be warm in the car. And then, yeah, it's just everything else that you can adjust. You can adjust the limited slip differential, the torque. I think there's 11 settings for the torque, so you can have basically all the power from that rear motor going straight to the rear. It's just mind-boggling what you can do. And the fact is as well that you can go on the track, have it set up so you can hear an engine and change gear, will definitely benefit a lot of people who get into this car at first. And then when you get used to what the car is capable of with an engine and with that noise, take it away, take away the gears, and then all of a sudden there's no hesitation there changing gear. You've got that full electric car potential to really just blow the numbers away compared to an ICE car, because there's nothing in this price bracket with an engine that can compete. It can go up against the likes of an A45 AMG, a Golf R, an Audi RS3, but then you're also looking at cars such as the Porsche Taycan in terms of performance and handling. Yes, I will say in terms of power and price, its biggest rival comes from Kia, and that's the EV6 GT, but it's not really a rival. I class the EV6 GT as an ultimate sleeper, a proper Q car. Unless you know about those acid green brake calipers, you'll think it's a regular EV6. So you're unaware of the potential that's oozing in that car. But with this, you know straight away it's something special. There's performance there, but not only that, it's got the handling as well. It's got the theatrics. It has the full package. And like I said, you just have to go into the menus and you realise you're nowhere near covering everything this car is capable of. And I definitely am not going to be able to find out in the 4 days that Hyundai are letting me have this 5N. That's how good it is, but also that's how complicated it is. But you know what? 100% it is worth it. Definitely. So what are my thoughts on the Hyundai Ioniq 5N? Well, one word: phenomenal. This is truly something special and spectacular. So I held up that Autocar magazine at the beginning of this review and it said, the best EV ever made. And do I agree with them? 100%. Right now, at this moment, nothing can touch this. It's the perfect, still, family electric vehicle. You have no compromises with that additional performance and power. Yes, okay, you lose the front and there's a little bit less space in the rear boot, but they're minor. It's still massively practical. It's still a brilliant day-to-day car, but you have the performance and the handling to not upset, but truly piss off its rivals. And I'm not talking rivals from, say, Ford or Audi or anything like that. No, I'm talking Porsche. Cars that are double, if not triple the price of this are just left in its wake. The guys at Hyundai, Albert Bierman and his team, have done wonders. They've created something which is not just a game changer, it's an instant classic. This will go down in history as just, it's one of those moments, you know, it's like when you see a movie with the best special effects ever, when you first see Jurassic Park or Avatar. It's one of those just unbelievable moments. This car is an icon. It is amazing, and like it's the whole package. I love the looks. I think it looks amazing, wonderful. It's practical. You can get not just kids, proper adults in the back. You've got a boot. I've got all the safety kit. I've got all the driver convenience. I've got a 5-year warranty. And I've got the performance to make guys that are driving Audi RS6s just shy away. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It is the best car in the world. And I know 65 grand is a lot, but for this, it's a bargain. It really is. 6-7 years ago, we first saw the i30N. 7 years before that, the quirkiest car that Hyundai did was the Veloster. Imagine what Hyundai can do and what they will do in another 6 or 7 years. Because I'll tell you one thing, I got a feeling there will be a couple of manufacturers based in Italy that are going to go a bit pale, because EVs are evolving so fast in terms of, like I said, as an overall performance package, this is perfection. And I really want one. So everyone, I hope you have enjoyed my review of the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, because I have loved every second in this car. Firstly, a massive thank you to Hyundai UK for loaning me this car. I know the demand on this from YouTubers, from the big press companies, everyone has been massive. So to have this for 4 days, and I've taken 4 days off work to enjoy this car and really get to grips with it, has just been phenomenal. Probably the best 4 days off this year. If you have any questions about the 5N and my time with it, please put them down in the comments section below. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell notifications icon. I have done a couple of extra videos which you can click up in the top right hand corner, where basically I've got point of view, where you can hear the different engine noises that you can do. You've got evolution, ignition, etc. So they're all there for you to enjoy. But guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I am going to catch you in the next one. So take care everybody, and bye-bye.